your question, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, a great report. Thank you very much. Very informative. I'm very grateful for that. I'm very interested, though, you make reference to flooding investigations. And I'm speaking for probably another colleague here, but is there a current investigation underway around the flooding that took place in Great Glen? The reason why I'm asking that is because, obviously, as part of the local plan from Harbour District Council, there is an intention or a desire to build 4,500 homes in that area, with a further potential 2,500 homes in Oadby. I'm very concerned about that. I think we all are. And it would just to know whether or not that investigation has to be completed first before anything could happen in terms of that plan proceeding.
Okay, Chair, sorry. A bit enthusiastic there, wasn't I? Yeah, apologies. So yeah, thank you for the question. So it is a complicated system. There's no sort of direct link or requirement for a Section 19 to be complete before a local plan can progress. However, obviously all the evidence that is available should be sort of taken into account with the local plan. And Harbour, who obviously the area for Great Glen, have consulted us on their local plan, both as local highway authority and lead local flood authority. And I'm aware that colleagues in the lead local flood authority are aware of in several instances across Harbour. So for instance, they're looking to have a policy position in the local plan that would require an improvement to flood risk. You'll be aware that the sort of statutory minimum is no detriment. So a percentage improvement on flood risk effectively through that. And we're working with Harbour colleagues to make that there. So in terms of, say, residents in Great Glen who've seen concern and are thinking then about future development, that is very much part of the discussions. I think then what we do probably need to think about is things like community infrastructure levy. You know, if there are, when the Section 19 has been complete, where there are opportunities to fund infrastructure that might support that, if indeed that is the answer, bearing in mind all the caveats that you heard from Anne earlier about whether that is the case or not. So it's not going without thought from the teams. It's just they are part of separate processes that we are linking up. So hopefully that helps answer that question. And the other thing I would just mention, and the team would be really keen for me to mention, is if there's anything, I suppose, you know, just really obvious that emerges as part of a Section 19 investigation, we don't wait for the whole thing to be complete before we talk to communities or do anything else around that. You can have interim actions, so it's not necessarily a kind of standstill period while that investigation's going on as well. So say for instance there was initial findings from a Section 19 that were relevant to a local plan, we could use that as well, and we would use that. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Could I just ask a follow-up, please?
Yes, please.
So if, as a consequence of that, there is remediation that's needed in that area to allow the plan to proceed, who pays for that? The developer, or combined costs applying to all the local authorities in the area? How does that work?
This is where I'd love to be able to give you a really clear, straight answer. So first of all, I'm going to sort of point back to that lovely diagram that Anne presented. So the first thing is it will literally depend what the source of that issue is and which land we're talking about and put it on. So I couldn't answer your question directly, but if there is something that's identified from that, there are options available to look at. It could be that when then the specific planning application comes in, we're consulted as the LLFA, we could comment on that and the need to address it through that. It could be that a bid goes into the EA for projects, and some of those were mentioned in the slides that Anne presented. It could be that there is need for a joint solution, depending again on who the parties are. So we would absolutely look for those opportunities, and we do try to seek additional funding for projects that fit that criteria. But it does all come down to what the actual circumstance in that particular area is. So sorry, I can't be more direct than that.